Well, every once in a while, we're lucky to have someone from Sycamore Village come by, Natalie McFarland. Natalie, good to have you back here again.
Thanks, Norm.
We've been talking about Alzheimer's for some time now. And one of the things, you know, in television, one of the things we want to do is communicate.
Uh-huh.
And so that brings the obvious question to me, is there any difficulty in communicating with someone who's going through one or more of the stages of Alzheimer's?
Yeah, that's a big difficulty for family members especially.
Oh, really?
Is communication. And
with the family member? Okay.
Yeah, oftentimes the family member. And there are recommended ways to communicate more successfully with somebody with Alzheimer's.
So how big a part of communicating, for example, are the words you're using versus the way you're talking to someone?
Surprisingly, words aren't a whole lot in communication. They actually are only 7% of communication.
Really?
I know, it's very surprising.
I was thinking it would be a huge number.
Right. 55% of communication is body language. So
really?
Giving someone a hug or just holding their hand, a pat on the back, that will say a lot more than words.
So communicating physically with them.
And facial expressions.
Okay.
Tone of voice is 38% of communication. So
wow.
Yeah, just having that calm tone of voice is
okay, so
going to
now
help.
We know that what I say is not that important, which has been said before here, by the way. But how then do I communicate? Or are there any tips that you need to suggest to people who have someone in their family?
Yeah, like I mentioned already, I think the biggest thing is staying calm, not showing your stress, because somebody with Alzheimer's can pick up on those things. They can sense those emotions and oftentimes mimic them as well.
Oh, okay.
And then more of the obvious ones, you know, speaking to them as if they are an adult, not a child.
Right. You know, you say, you know, okay, Mom, it's, you know, don't give them that baby language.
Right.
Okay.
And, you know, having good eye contact with them. But I, again, would say staying calm and having patience is going to help you the most.
How, speaking quickly or slowly make a difference?
Yeah, a lot of people think if the slower they speak, the better they'll understand you. And really, it just distorts your natural rhythm of speech. So you want to speak at a conversational rate, but I think the key thing is to allow plenty of time for response. It's different from speaking slowly. You speak, but allow a lot of time for them to respond.
So when I ask a question, don't expect the answer click,
right
click.
away. Yeah, their brain is severely impaired in multiple areas, including their processing area. So for them to process information, it can take up to more than 30 seconds.
Do you find that people who communicate with someone in the family who has this problem might tend to get a little argumentative with them?
Yeah, unfortunately that happens a lot.
I mean, that's a natural reaction, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of people just don't have the patience.
Yeah.
It's, you know, again, it's so important to be patient and to empathize with that person. And arguing is definitely something you want to avoid, because you're never going to win an argument with somebody with Alzheimer's disease.
Right.
You're just not going to.
Okay, so you find that they don't recognize you, or they don't recognize their grandson, or whatever the case might be. So you show them a picture and say, do you know who this is?
And I refer to that as quizzing,
Yeah.
and that's another thing that I think you should avoid.
Oh, don't do that.
You don't want to do that. Instead of asking them, because oftentimes they won't know the answer and it can make them embarrassed,
Sure.
anxious, agitated. So instead of asking something like, who is in this picture, who's this a person of, you might just say, you know, this looks like a picture of your daughter Jane. You know, and then start communicating that way.
And hope that they pick up on that? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what about something simple as what they're used to doing? For example, driving. They're used to driving, and now they suddenly can't drive anymore. How do you deal with that?
That's a tough one for family members, and I get asked that a lot. I always recommend not giving long explanations. Again, avoiding that arguing. They're no longer able to reason, so just giving a short explanation. You know, if they're questioning you why they can't drive anymore, you might just say something like, you know, because of the medications you're taking, your doctor has prescribed for you to no longer drive.
Could you lie to them and say, well, the car's broken, so you can't drive anymore?
You can. Whatever's going to make sense to them. You don't want to ever reorient the person. You know, if they're talking like mom and dad are still alive. You know, where's mom and dad?
Yeah.
You want to live their reality and just go with the flow. Whatever impression they're under, just go with it, and things will go a lot smoother for you.
One of the things I found in my limited experience is that sometimes the person who has the problem can't even respond, can't speak back to you.
Yeah, when you progress to a certain stage of Alzheimer's disease, you won't any longer be able to communicate with the use of words. So you have to, as a caregiver or a family member, you have to look for behaviors or clues, and always think of basic needs first. So if somebody's very agitated or acting out or showing behaviors, they might just be hot. Maybe they're too cold or hungry. Oftentimes they're in pain.
Yeah.
And then if they're rummaging, that's another big one, wandering around. They might just be looking for something that's familiar to them, or they might just have to use the restroom.
It's hard. One of the things I know you do is you do seminars where you try to pass along some of these kinds of tips. So you have one in July, I believe.
We do. We are hosting one in July. It's at the end of the month on the 29th at 2 o'clock at Sycamore Village. And I'll go into more depth on how to communicate to the person with Alzheimer's.
Do people need to call, or can they? How do you want them to do that?
We prefer that they call Sycamore 222-2571. They can send me an email. They can go to our website, but it's probably easiest to call us.
Just call 222-2571.
Yes.
Natalie, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Interesting information that all of us need to know. Our guest in this segment of the program, Natalie McFarland, Sycamore Village.